I'm going to look in the camera and say, somebody drag me into deep water. I'm telling you, I want to feel what it's like. I want to see if I can swim or not. Jon Jones, if you can drag me there, take me there. Because right now, all these guys are saying it, but no one can do it.
You know, I don't want to sound arrogant, but I think what it is being so good at what I do that it's just almost never enough. I'm very aware that, you know, that the Tom Aspinall is like, it's making more headlines than Stipe. You know, when I win, there's always an excuse. Well, oh, he really wasn't that well-rounded. Or
Jon, in my opinion, if you look at his body of work over the last 15 years, he's like as close as you can get to perfection as possible. He's like 37, 38 years old, but not only that, he's got 1 million miles on the clock. So he's got a lot of damage on the body. He's took a lot of shots to the head. And that's not me saying anything negative about it. That's the reality of it.
If you're making Islam, vacate. Jones needs to be stripped.
A lot of people are speaking on this. In fact, they've started a petition. The people have spoken. They have started a petition, and it's on 17,000 votes. 17,000 people in the MMA community so far in a very short amount of time are all saying, strip Jon Jones. And one of those people, I doubt that Jon Jones has told the UFC that he's going to retire. Because if that's what he said after this amount of time, after stringing the UFC along for so long, after messing around with Tom Aspinall for so long, if this is what he was going to do, they would turn around straight away. They would hold a press conference and say, you know what? Jon Jones ain't the man that we thought he was. Okay? He doesn't want to fight Tom. He's clearly scared. He's worried about getting knocked out. He's worried about his legacy.
Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. It's not going to happen. I'm over it. It's done. I don't even understand how Jon Jones is still holding the title. People coming out trying to get clicks. I'm over it.
In a short amount of time, much of the MMA world has rallied around a single sentiment: strip Jon Jones. Many are convinced that Jones hasn't officially told the UFC he's retiring, because if he had, the UFC would have responded swiftly. After dragging things out for so long and delaying a fight with Tom Aspinall, they wouldn't hesitate to call a press conference and announce, Jon Jones isn't who we thought he was. He doesn't want to face Tom. He's avoiding the risk, maybe even afraid of losing and hurting his legacy. At this point, some are simply done waiting. Many can't understand why Jones is still recognized as champion. Others believe certain people are just stirring the pot for clicks. But overall, the community is clearly frustrated. Fans are tired of the never-ending delay in scheduling a bout between interim champ Tom Aspinall and reigning heavyweight title holder Jon Jones. Aspinall, for his part, doesn't just want the belt, he's chasing a real challenge. Most of his UFC victories have come quickly, so he hasn't had the opportunity to dig deep and face a grueling, drawn-out war inside the octagon. He's hungry to test his limits, to see how he holds up in the later rounds of a true championship battle. And right now, Jon Jones is the perfect opponent to give him that test.
We're going to drag him into deep water. We're going to drag him to the later rounds. So I was preparing myself for the later rounds, you know what I mean? That was me. I was going slow in there, man. That wasn't me trying to knock him out at all. I never looked for the finish. I was like, they're saying they're going to drag me into deep water. I'm going to look in the camera and say, somebody drag me into deep water. I'm telling you, I want to feel what it's like. I want to see if I can swim or not. Jon Jones, if you can drag me there, take me there. Because right now, all these guys are saying it, but no one can do it.
And I'm sure Jon Jones is aware of that. And he's fighting one of the most concussive punchers in UFC history. And I just think I can exploit it. Like, I think to get out the way of me for 25 minutes at this point in his career without getting hit once, and that's all I need is just one, I think that's going to be very difficult for anybody.
Tom Aspinall views Jon Jones as the ideal opponent to push him to his absolute limit. He's not just looking for another win. He wants a true battle, one that will test his endurance, mental fortitude, and fighting spirit. For Aspinall, the UFC Heavyweight Title isn't just a trophy. It's an opportunity to prove to himself and to the world that he can go to war with one of the sport's all-time greats. Meanwhile, Jon Jones is fully aware of the hype surrounding a potential clash with Aspinall. He knows a large portion of the MMA fanbase is rooting for the rising British star to be the one who finally defeats him. According to Jones, this desire from fans stems from his long-standing dominance in the sport. With an almost spotless record, he believes many are simply eager to see his legacy fall. and they've pinned their hopes on Aspinall being the one to do it.
You know, when I win, there's always an excuse. Well, oh, he really wasn't that well-rounded, and it's hard to compare to any other fighter because I don't think any other fighter in our sports history has ever had to deal with it. You know, I just beat Cyril Gain, and we can go back in a time machine and hear the way that people talked about Gain. You know, and then as soon as I beat him, he's like, oh, well, he wasn't that, or he's this, and like, so it's a very interesting place to be in, and
Michael Bisping didn't hold back in his recent reaction video titled, "Is it time to strip Jon Jones?" And he brought up some strong points that are beginning to resonate with a growing number of fans. Jon Jones is a legend in the sport, arguably the greatest light heavyweight in MMA history, and now a two-division champion with the UFC Heavyweight Title to his name. But the issue, as Bisping sees it, is that Jones is stalling the entire division. His frustration is obvious. He's voicing what many have been wondering. Why hasn't this fight with Tom Aspinall happened yet? What's causing the delay? Rather than a clear path to a title unification bout, fans are left deciphering cryptic tweets from Jones, one day hinting at retirement, the next saying he's fine. Lately, it seems Jones is more focused on enjoying his downtime, posting about parties and living the good life. And to be fair, he's earned the right to relax. He's built his legacy and secured financial stability. But the division can't wait forever.
Okay, Tom Aspinall, the interim champion, has been the interim champ for 70% of Jon Jones's reign. They need to fight one another. And what the F is going on? Why isn't this fight scheduled? And now, of course, we've seen all this stuff coming out about Jon Jones. He's not sure, he's tweeting, he might be retired, he might not be retired, he's living his best life. I mean, that's all well and good. Of course he's living his best life. And with that, he's made a tremendous amount of money. Of course, you're living a good life. But as the heavyweight champion of the world, you have a debt, you have an obligation to the fighters, to the fans, to the rest of the division, to your bloody self to prove that you are the undisputed champion of the world. He's not the undisputed champ because there's an interim champion. And I'm not saying this as someone trying to shit on Jon Jones. No, this is just the situation. Now, first of all, talking about living his best life. You've probably seen this right now. He's out in Thailand, he's driving around, he's on the back of someone's motorbike. He's having a good smell of somebody's hair.
But as Bisping points out, the UFC isn't a place for champions to sit on titles while enjoying semi-retirement. His argument is simple. If Jon Jones isn't willing to defend the belt, especially with a motivated interim champion like Tom Aspinall waiting, it's time for a decision. Either book the fight or vacate the title and allow the division to move forward.
First of all, talking about living his best life. You've probably seen this right now. He's out in Thailand, he's driving around, he's on the back of someone's motorbike, he's having a good smell of somebody's hair, he's with some Russian dude because Jon Jones and Nate Diaz are filming some like Russian version of The Ultimate Fighter. Jake Shields was there. The guy that was riding the motorcycle comes in, kicks off to he's still hammered from the night out. He doesn't look like he can fight his way out of a wet paper bag, but he's swinging punches and all this type of stuff. Nate Diaz gives him a slap. Jon Jones is laughing his head off. Be careful out there, boys. Anytime you're dealing with a bunch of Chechens and a bunch of Russians, you gotta be careful. This is number one bullshit, okay?
This is number one bullshit.
I'm telling you, just watch what you're doing, fellas. No wonder they got out of Dodge and got the fuck out of there. But what is Jon Jones doing, right? Because a lot of people are now calling for him to be stripped. Adam Cattrall from the Fight Disciples, he said this week, it's time for him to be stripped.
We're going to get to that stage, mate, of defend or
Jon Jones' heavyweight situation has spiraled into full-blown chaos. More and more fighters, fans, and analysts are now pushing for the UFC to strip him of the title. While Jones is seemingly enjoying himself, vacationing in Thailand, filming reality shows with Russian celebrities and Nate Diaz, he hasn't been inside the cage, and the entire division is on pause because of it. Michael Bisping puts it plainly. Being the UFC heavyweight champion isn't just about holding a belt, it's a commitment. Jones has a duty to the division, the fans, and his own legacy to defend that title and prove he's still the top dog. At the moment, that claim is shaky. Tom Aspinall has been the interim champion for most of Jones's reign, and without a unification fight, the title picture remains clouded and stagnant.
Robert Whittaker, one of the greatest ever, said, honestly, who cares now? I'm done with waiting. It's like Elder Scrolls 6.
You're going to have to play something else, mate.
He says, I don't know how Jon Jones still holds the title. Like I've mentioned when we first started speaking about this many moons ago, how I was like, no one's stripping Jon Jones. You can't do that to him. But mate, you're taking the piss now. And he is taking the piss. Even Paddy Pimblett's got in on the action. He said, listen, I didn't think that they would make Islam Makhachev vacate the belt. But if they're going to do that to Islam, then they've got to strip Jon Jones.
If you're making Islam vacate Jones.
It's been nearly a year, and there's still no clear indication that Jon Jones plans to return and face Tom Aspinall. Instead, Jones has been posting from Thailand, talking about how much he's enjoying life, joking about losing weight while overeating, and seemingly trolling fans who are desperate to see him back in action. When someone suggested he should be stripped of his title, Jones fired back with a dismissive, "Do I come across as someone who cares?" And that's the core of the problem. If he truly doesn't care about being champion anymore, then why not vacate the title and let the division move forward? That's why the call is growing louder for Tom Aspinall to be promoted to undisputed champion. It would inject much-needed momentum back into the heavyweight scene. If Jon decides to return later, he can always work his way back into the picture, but right now, the division shouldn't be held hostage.
17,000 people in the MMA community so far in a very short amount of time are all saying strip Jon Jones. And one of those people is Tom Aspinall's former opponent, Curtis Blaydes. He said, listen, without a doubt, they should be stripping Jon Jones. And everyone is starting to get a little bit tired of it. And now Jon Jones is even tweeting and alluding that maybe the fight's not even going to go down. Let's just take a look at the Twitter feed of Jon Jones. He says, I've been out here in Thailand, I'm enjoying life, I'm stuffing my face every day, and I swear I'm losing weight because the food's not full of shit and chemicals. That's why. Someone says you should be stripped. He says, stripped? Low. Do I come across as the type of person who cares about things like that? Well, if you don't care, do the right thing. Relinquish the belt. Give it to Tom Aspinall. Let the division move on. And if you want to stroll back in and take the belt back, do it at your own time. Remember, he shared a video the other day. It's a meme that's going all over Instagram. It's a bunch of dogs all barking and being dickheads. And then some big like alpha dog walks in and sticks the other dog down. Jon's like, this is what it feels like walking back into the UFC.
So, is this just a massive miscommunication between Jon Jones and Dana White? That seems pretty unlikely. If Jones had truly told the UFC he was stepping away, Michael Bisping questioned whether Dana White would really just stay silent. If Jon had actually said, I'm done, I'm not fighting Tom, the UFC would have acted, stripped him of the belt, held a press conference, and officially crowned Tom Aspinall the new champion. Let's not forget, Jon Jones was once the youngest champion in UFC history, taking down legends to claim his throne. But now that he's become a legend himself, it appears he's avoiding the very type of challenge he used to thrive on.
The whole time in New York at Madison Square Garden, at the press conference, pre-fight, post-fight, after the fight, now still not giving any clarity on whether or not he's going to fight the guy. You have to defend the belt. It's as simple as that. If you are a fighter, you have to fight. If you are a champion, you have to defend the belt. And if you're not doing that, then shame on you. Going back to his Twitter feed, someone says, yes, otherwise you'd have vacated the belt a long time ago because you don't want to fight Tom. He says, y'all barking up the wrong tree. I told the UFC my plans a long time ago. I have no clue why they haven't shared them with you guys yet. So that set off a bit of a shitstorm. A lot of people saying, well, of course, the UFC knows that he wants to retire, that he wants to walk away.
So you got 10 years left, but you're still active. Oh, yeah, I'm done.
I don't know what the score is there. Only Dana White and Jon Jones knows the true story there. But I doubt that. I doubt that Jon Jones has told the UFC that he's going to retire.
In the end, it's up to Dana White to make the right call. Tom Aspinall is in his prime, driven, ready, and eager to compete, but he's being left in limbo. Every month that goes by is time wasted, time he could be using to defend the title, build his legacy, and push the heavyweight division forward. If Jon Jones won't commit to a return, the UFC has to stop shielding him and allow the division to progress. Fans deserve transparency, fighters deserve opportunities, and Tom Aspinall deserves the chance to be officially recognized as the undisputed heavyweight champion.
This is insane. Jon Jones is the heavyweight champion of the world. He's not undisputed anymore because it is simply disputed. There is two champions, and as a man, you want to settle the score once and for all. And Tom Aspinall, on the flip side, he's getting sick of it. He's mentally tired, and I'm sure he is. He's told me many times he's sick of talking about it. He told Mighty Mouse it's starting to wear on him mentally, starting to get him down.
A little bit more of a tricky time for me mentally than it was then.
Because he should be out there fighting every 3, 4, 5 months.
Renowned MMA analyst Chael Sonnen has also voiced his frustration over the ongoing saga. He's clearly fed up with the uncertainty surrounding a potential Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall showdown. Sonnen bluntly stated that the fight probably isn't going to happen, and he's done holding out hope. He openly questioned how Jon Jones is still the UFC Heavyweight Champion, criticizing both the continued delays and the lack of transparency from all sides.
Jon Jones versus Tom Aspinall. It's not gonna happen. I'm over it. It's done. I don't even understand how Jon Jones is still holding the title. People coming out trying to get clicks. I'm over it.
Sonnen also highlighted the broader impact of Jon Jones holding the title without any scheduled fight. According to him, it creates unnecessary confusion and halts the division's momentum. He warned younger fighters not to emulate Jones's approach, noting that they won't enjoy the same level of protection or privilege. Interestingly, despite all the drama, Sonnen still believes that if the Jones versus Aspinall fight ever materializes, Jones could enter as the betting favorite, even though Aspinall is younger, bigger, and arguably more active.
This fight is a smaller fight now than it was 3 months ago. Aspinall versus Jones, which, by the way, I don't maintain for you couldn't be resurrected. I don't maintain for you that it could be resurrected with one press conference or one Instagram live by Dana. I'm just sharing for you right now. And I have numbers, audited numbers, on my YouTube page to back up my claim when I tell you Jones and Aspinall was not only hotter 3 months ago, it was hotter than that 5 months ago, and it is coming to an almost crawl.
Sonnen even referenced Robert Whittaker as a telling example. Known for being calm and rarely emotional or outspoken, Whittaker recently showed signs of frustration over the situation. Sonnen pointed out that when level-headed fighters like Whittaker begin speaking out, it's a clear sign that the issue has gone too far, and the dysfunction within the division is becoming impossible to ignore.
Robert Whittaker came out and said it, and Robert Whittaker, as a multiple-time world champion, has the right to an opinion as to who the champion should be. And he makes a very fair point. Just, I don't even know how he still got the belt. He's not putting Jon down, he's not putting Jon's skills down.
However, Chael Sonnen emphasized this very issue, pointing out that even Robert Whittaker has questioned how Jon Jones can still hold the UFC Heavyweight Title without a fight on the books. Sonnen argued that if there are two fighters holding belts, one undisputed and one interim, it should logically lead to a unification bout. He also noted the confusing nature of interim titles in the UFC. For example, Colby Covington once held an interim championship, but ended up losing it without ever stepping back into the cage. Despite this ambiguity, the MMA community largely agrees that an interim champ is essentially the top contender, waiting in line to challenge the undisputed champion.
Jon didn't mean that. Jon doesn't mean that he's retired. I'm speaking to the idea that he chose to use the word, and then Robert Whittaker's looking at it and saying, how do you still got a belt around this guy? And if you do got a belt around this guy, how does he not have an upcoming fight? If he's got a belt and another guy's got a belt, at a minimum, we know that they're going to compete with each other, right? Right there, I'm summarizing Robert Whittaker, but he makes a perfectly good point. What do we know about the interim championship? Well, not a whole lot. I know that Colby Covington won it, never got beat, woke up one day and was no longer the interim champion. Like, I don't actually know a ton about it, but we have agreed as a community that an interim champion, at a minimum, is the #1 contender.
One thing is crystal clear. If there's an interim champion, there shouldn't be any uncertainty about what comes next. There's no need to ask who the next contender is. It's already decided. The interim champ must face the undisputed title holder. That's the whole point of having an interim belt in the first place. to set up a definitive showdown for the true championship.
Whoever is the interim champion will fight the undisputed champion, and we know that that's true. Because without even saying it, the penalty for the undisputed champion is the belt will come off him and the interim champion automatically moves up, which is the last thing anybody would ever want or let happen in their own career, which is why it's a foregone conclusion, which is what Robert Whittaker's talking about. And he's right.
Because if the undisputed champion refuses to defend the belt, it's game over. They get stripped. And when that happens, the interim champion automatically steps up and becomes the official title holder. No one wants to lose their crown that way, which makes this showdown between Jon Jones and Tom Aspinall not just necessary, but inevitable. Robert Whittaker summed it up perfectly, and he's absolutely right.
I'm not coming out and saying, strip John. What I'm coming out and I'm trying to bring to your attention, if you're a father, if you're a fighter, if you're aspiring to be a father of a fighter or a fighter that wants to be a world champion, do not look at what Jon Jones did, copy it, and think you're going to get the same result. Don't think at 37 years old, changing weight classes, spotting some guy some pounds, being on the back of a moped in a different country, not knowing if you're going to fight or not, and when you do come back, you're going to come back against a guy 10 years younger than you and 28 pounds bigger than you.
Meanwhile, UFC Heavyweight champion Jon Jones remains non-committal about unifying the division in a long-awaited clash with interim champ Tom Aspinall. Months after initial talks with the promotion began, Jones continues to keep fans guessing, dropping vague hints about his fighting future while the division waits for clarity.
Like that. My man. I'm excited to see you again.
But you are still active. 10 years left, but you are still active.
He said you got 10 years left, but you're still active.
No, I'm done.
He got a little great. He's like, oh. I'm looking forward to seeing you again, Camille. You look great.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Let's do some business.
Shortly after, Tom Aspinall fueled fan excitement by sharing footage of himself pushing hard in training camp, making it clear he's ready for a potential showdown with Jon Jones. But just hours later, Jones once again cast doubt on the fight's future. Instead of fight news, Jones shared updates about enjoying life and focusing on personal growth, something UFC fans didn't take lightly. Many feel he's dodging the very matchup they've been waiting for. To some, it seems like Jones has mentally retired, even if he hasn't made it official. The longer this drags on without clarity, the more it hurts both his legacy and the momentum of the heavyweight division. So the big question remains, will Jon Jones finally return to face Tom Aspinall? The hype may have cooled and rumors are swirling, but if this fight happens, it's going to be electric. Two elite fighters, two contrasting styles, everything on the line. Will Jon Jones prove that? Even at 37, he's still the king of the octagon? Or will Tom Aspinall's youth and power be enough to dethrone a legend? Let us know what you think in the comments. Does Jon still have it? Is Aspinall the future? Either way, the MMA world will be watching, because if these two clash, no fan will. Want to miss a second? Like, subscribe, and hit that bell so you don't miss the latest updates on this heavyweight saga.